Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. As you saw by the title of today's video, I'm going to be talking about all the books I read in 2024. Here's a stack of them. Let's get into it. Grab your soda, grab your coffee, grab a blanket, and let's talk about books. My reading goal for the year of 2024 was 20 books. Mind you, I had a very big reading slump. I was probably not reading for like 4 to 5 months. So first things first, if you see me looking down, it's because I have my computer in front of me with my Goodreads app open. First things first, let's jump into it. The first book I read in 2024 was Magnolia Parks. This book was recommended to me by one of my favorite booktubers of all time. Like, I literally love her. If you don't follow her, you have to follow her. Her name is Steph Bohr. I'm gonna put her at right here. Like, she does book content, lifestyle content. She's just a girl that I wish I was. But this book is one of her favorite series. I think this is like a 5-part series or something, and people stand this. People on TikTok that I watch stand this book, and I was like, well, usually I like books that other people recommend, people that have similar tastes. This book is like, it's giving Gossip Girl. It's about this girl with the name Magnolia Parks and this boy, literally the worst name ever. The MC's name is BJ Valentine. I should have known. I should have known when I read that name that this was not gonna go good. But it's about these two characters that are in like this toxic relationship. They're like super rich. They break up, they get back together, they break up, they get back together, they cheat on each other. They literally don't have jobs. It's just about their lives being super rich and like them finding their way back to each other again. I loathe this book, and I'm using the word loathe because it's a stronger word than hate. I literally strongly dislike this book. I gave it a 1 star on Goodreads, and I'm gonna read to you what I wrote in my review about this book, because if you don't follow me on Goodreads, please do. I will put up my in the bio below, so just click on it and then you can follow me and you can see what I'm reading. But usually when I'm done with the book on Goodreads, I go rate the book, and then I write what I think in that moment about the book, because I feel like the rawest reaction you get out of me is when I just finish a book and I can like tell you exactly what I think. But I'm gonna read to you what I wrote about this book, because I hated this book. I said, I hated this book. I was so excited to start it because all my favorite booktubers and book TikTokers highly recommended the story. It was just so long to read, and I felt like I read the same story every single chapter. Magnolia hates BJ. They meet up, rekindle their romance. Magnolia breaks it off with BJ. I am so disappointed in this book. It had so much potential to be a great story, but unfortunately, it did not live up to expectation. Thanks to Tom, whoever that was, can't even remember him because the story is so irrelevant. Thanks to Tom, I could pull through and finish this book. He was the only character I was excited to read about. Save yourself the disappointment and skip this one. There are other toxic romances that are far better than this one. So as you can see by my review, I really would not recommend this book. Also, this is a chonker. This is a big book. Like, look at this. And it was just, guys, it took me forever. This is how I started the year off. Would not recommend. 1 star. Could have read way more if it wasn't for my reading slump. So as the year went on, I went from my reading goal being 20 to toning it down to 17. And I did meet my reading goal, so I read 17 books in the year of 2024. Now the second book I read in 2024 shattered me. This book is about Juliet. She's a girl that's living in this place called the Reestablishment, or it's run by the Reestablishment. She is in there because she has a special ability. She has lethal touch, which means if she touches people, they die. The Reestablishment like put her in this solitary confinement space because they want to use her for like war or something, and she wants to escape. Like, nobody wants to live like that. So she has her boyfriend, which is Adam. We love Adam. He's a great character. And they are trying to get out of this place. But it's run by this crazy guy named Aaron Warner. If you know, you know. And it's just about their story trying to escape and her life in the Reestablishment. I love this book. I love this book. This is a young adult book, so I'm not normally a young adult reader, but I gave this book a 4-star. It was really, really, really good. It wasn't a 5-star to me just because it is young adult, so the writing sometimes is a little bit childish, but I really liked it. It was really quick and easy read. For somebody that's not a fantasy reader, I really like this book. I'm gonna read to you what my review was on Goodreads, as you know, which will be a repetition in this video of me reading my review on Goodreads, because that just shows you guys what my real and raw emotion was in that moment. I said it was good. It was the first fantasy book I've ever read, and I found it very easy to read. The story was interesting and entertaining. Adam and Juliet are very cute. They were. But I'm also rooting for Warner. I thought the story was going to end on a cliffhanger to lead into the second book, but it really didn't. I think I will be reading the next book. So I'm going to just like leave that there, because I did read the next book in the same year. Now on to the third book that I read. The third book I read in 2024, I do not have a physical copy of, but I did read it on my Kindle, was The Silent Patient. This book is about this woman that is in jail because she shot her husband in the face. I know, that was crazy. She shot her husband in the face and she refuses to talk about it. So nobody knows her motive, nobody knows what her husband did and why she shot him. And so this journalist goes on this mission to find out why she did it and like what was the motive behind it. And let me tell you, the story is crazy. Where you think it's going, it's not going. This was the first, like one of the first plot twists that had my jaw on the floor. When I tell you, the plot twist was like, what was that? It was that good. I really recommend this if you are not a psychological thriller reader. You would love this book. Like, please read this. It is so good. It's such an easy read. It's fast-paced, which means like there's not some places where it's boring. And for this reason alone, I gave it 4 stars. I didn't give it 5 stars just because I read it a little bit and then I stopped reading it, because I started reading it when we were at the beach and then I stopped reading it, and then there was a little bit of time that went by and then I picked it back up again. So I just feel like if I read it in one sitting, it would have definitely been a 5-star read for me. Because I took some time with it, I gave it 4 stars. For this book, I did not write a review on Goodreads because I had to process what I just read. The plot twist. Go read it. The fourth book I read in 2024 was a book named Here With Me by Brooke Montgomery. I also read this on my Kindle, which means I do not have a physical copy of this. But this book was something different. This book is an age gap romance, which means if you don't know book slang, age gap is like what it says it is. It's like about a young person and an older person that have a romantic relationship. But this is like a cowboy romance, so it's a little bit messy, but bear with me. It's about this girl that's dating her ex-boyfriend's dad. It's bad, guys. It's bad, I know. But honestly, this book can be entertained. Like, listen here. It sounds messy, but it's not. It's very wholesome at the end of the day. For some reason, I gave this book 2 stars. Okay. I don't know why I did it. I think I explained it in my review. But yeah, as I said, this is an age gap romance between this girl and her ex-boyfriend's dad. But yeah, it's just them being on this ranch, and then he works there, she takes lessons there, or I can't remember what she does on this ranch, but basically they get together. And obviously because it's her ex-boyfriend's dad, it's forbidden romance, so just them like sneaking around and how they eventually like have to come to life with their relationship. Overall, I really enjoyed this book, but I did give it 2 stars. I'm going to read to you what I wrote on Goodreads, which will give you more like insight what I thought about this book. I said, don't get me wrong, this book started off great. It had me giggling and kicking my feet, but after 50%, it became kind of cringe with all the Taylor Swift references and weird sayings. But it's still worth reading though. So it appears to me that I didn't like this book as much just because it was a little bit cringe. And yeah, that's the only reason. Otherwise, now I would definitely recommend you reading this book. It was a fun read for me. The next book I read in 2024 was a Frida McFadden book. I love Frida McFadden. It's the book The Locked Door. This book is about this woman that is a doctor. When she was little, her dad killed somebody in the basement. and he obviously got locked up for it. And she went on her whole life. Not She started this new life for herself. She changed her name, and then she becomes a doctor. And as she is like tending to one of her patients, a patient comes in, and this patient is like murdered in the same style that her dad murdered people while he was a serial killer. And she was like, is my dad back? Is this a copycat killer? And just her figuring this whole thing out, like, is her dad back? Is there somebody else that's being him? And this book was interesting. I really like Frida McFadden's writing style. This one, however, was not my favorite, but it did keep me interested, and for that reason I gave it a 3-star. My Goodreads review on this one is: the beginning of this book was very intriguing and eerie, but I'm sad to say the ending fell a little flat for me compared to her other books like Never Lie, my favorite psychological thriller of all time. If you haven't read Never Lie by Frida McFadden, what are you doing? Where the plot twist left my jaw on the floor, this one did not meet those expectations at all. Although it was a quick and easy read for me, I did find all the characters not trustworthy, and that made it a good read for me because I'm constantly thinking like, you're lying, you're lying, you're lying, what's going on? So I would recommend this book, but I also won't recommend this book. So kind of leave it there. If you're a psychological thriller person, yes, maybe not read this book because you would probably know what's going to happen at the end. If you're not a psychological thriller person, do read this book. You're gonna love it. The next book is Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I do have a physical copy of this book, but I gave it to my other friend to read. This book is about this girl named Peyton Gray. She lives in this world. This is a fantasy book, by the way. If you don't have special powers, you are called the Ordinary. And basically what this means is like they're the outcasts of the world. Like they just struggle through life, no food, no housing, like barely making ends meet. And so she convinces people, because remember, she's street smart, that she is a psychic. And this opens a lot of doors for her, creates a lot of opportunities for her. There's this thing that happens in the beginning of the book where she meets this guy named Kai, and he's like one of the like upper ranking people of like the world that they live in. And it's just about their story. After she meets this guy, like something happens, and she basically gets like sent to this place that's basically like Hunger Games style, where it's like trials where they have to like fight for their life. And then the person that wins gets to like walk free, and I don't know, I guess just enjoy their life. I don't really know what the point of the trials is, but it, like, I don't want to spoil too much of this book, but it's just really, really well written. And the fact that the author is the same age as me, Lauren Roberts is 22 years old, is just actually insane to me. Like, the writing was easy. I've never like been a fantasy reader, as I just said. Like, Shatter Me was my first fantasy book. This one was so easy to read. Like, it kept me intrigued. The world was really good. The characters, guys, it's not all day that I like reading about characters, but these characters, Peyton and Kai, chef's kiss. Would recommend this book. I gave it 4 stars. I think like the only thing I said in my review was that I loved this book and I was like obsessed. So my Goodreads review, I gave it 4 stars. This was my first dabble into fantasy and I truly loved it. I was obsessed with both Peyton and Kai. I love Kai's character and how he was gentle and soft towards Peyton. However, the ending was not it for me. Like, the romance between them, come on. It had me screaming that they couldn't just get together. I say some spoilers in here, so I'm not going to read that, but I just say that I don't know if I'm going to read the rest of the franchise. I feel like I will at least read the next one just to find out what happens to Peyton and Kai. I end up buying the next book, which is, I actually have it. This is the next book that comes after Powerless. It's called Reckless. I am planning on reading this book after the book I'm reading right now. I'm reading a book called Heartless Hunter, but this is definitely going to be the book I read after this because I believe the 3rd one is coming out soon, so I need to get on it. But yeah, please go read Powerless if you haven't read Powerless. The next book I read is Chicken Mate by Ali Hazelwood. It is a romance book. I think it's contemporary romance. It was really cute. It's about this girl called Mallory Greenleaf, and she plays chess for a living. She ends up meeting this guy called the King Killer. His name is Nolan Sawyer. He's like a super good chess player, and it's just like their story about how they, if you ever watched The Queen's Gambit on Netflix, you would love this book. I really liked it. It just had a lot of chess like information in it where I'm like, why am I reading this much about chase? Like, I feel like I know so much about chase after I read that book. But it was really cute. I gave it 3 stars, and the only thing I said on Goodreads was this is a cute story. So I mean, if you're looking for a fun read, read it. Otherwise, I'd skip this one. I'm trying to start going through these books a little bit quicker just because I am already 20 minutes in and I have so much more to go. Next book I read, I actually have, it's called Before We Were Strangers by Renee Carlino. Sorry. It's a romance contemporary fiction. This book, guys, if you've ever watched One Day, or if you watched or read Normal People, you would eat this book up. It was so good. The story starts off by them seeing each other on the subway, and the guy is like, did I just see that girl? But as the story goes on, you realize that they knew each other, because it's like the chapters are like broken up into like then and now, and it's just a story about how they knew each other at one point, and they were like in love, they were very serious, and like something happens and you're like, what is happening? Why are they not together? Because at the beginning you see them like seeing each other on the subway, but like by the time they recognize each other, the subway goes, and like one is on the platform, one's on the subway, so there's no way of being sure that their eyes didn't deceive them. And like, yeah, this book plays off in New York, which makes it even better. This book at the end, I was like, what? Why do I choose to torture myself? I really like this book. This book was one of my few 5-star reads of 2024. Please read it. Like, do yourself a favor and read it. You will not regret it. Like, you won't. I'm gonna write a review for this one on Goodreads because I guess I was processing what I was reading. I also remember that this book did make me mad. So there's that. The next book I read is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This is a contemporary romance as well. It's about this girl. She's super rich. She's famous. She's like basically like a local celebrity. She reminded me of Paris Hilton. I don't know, but her name's Bubba. And she basically, something happens and she needs to like go to a small town and like rebuild her life basically and find herself, because like she's so caught up in like the world of fame and wealth, and like, so she goes to this like little fisher small town and she meets this guy, this grumpy guy, him right here, and it's just about them and like how they fall in love obviously, and like they help each other through some stuff. And this book, first of all, my first complaint about this book is it's so long. It was so long. My second complaint about this book, it was super spicy. I don't like that much, but like I don't even like spice like that, but it was just too much for me. I was half of the time scarred by it. I had to like wash my eyeballs with soap water because I'm just like, what am I reading? I just wanted to get through some scenes. And yeah, I mean, it was a fun read because they had good banter, and he was like the right amount of grumpy for me because it is a grumpy sunshine trope. But yeah, I gave this book 3 stars. I also don't think I gave this one a review. Yeah, I didn't give this one a review. I just remember it being so long, so drawn out. Like, I just feel like some scenes didn't need to be in there. Like, can we just cut to the chase? Like, get this over with. And then obviously, which I hate in a book, is third act breakup. Third act breakup, if you don't know book slang, it's like when the characters are like going through this point where they're finally together and they're so happy, and then something happens and they break up unnecessarily. Like, there's no really good reason for it. But that's this book. 3 stars. Read it, maybe. I don't know. The next book was a reread for me. I reread this book with my best friend. It's called Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. It's also an age gap romance. It's about this girl This is so embarrassing to say. It's about this girl that ends up dating her boyfriend's dad and lives with him. And yeah, that's all you need to know. Would I recommend it? Yes. Did I enjoy reading it? Yes. Um, yeah, there's just some books that is worth rereading, and this was one of them. I liked it so much that I reread it with my best friend. Give this book 4 stars. The reasons why I like this book is, first of all, it's very realistic in the sense of like the age gap is done right. Like there's no childishness or you know. And then another reason why I like this book is the characters were very likable. So yeah, that's why I like this book. I don't want to talk too much about this book because this is a reread. But if you haven't read it, go read it. You might like it. The next book I read was also one of my favorites. The next book I read was The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. This is a romance, contemporary romance. It's about this girl that's like, she's a bodyguard. This is really cool because she's the bodyguard and he's the celebrity. But basically, she's his bodyguard and they go, yeah, she's his bodyguard. That's all you need to know. And just how they, I don't know, it's so cute. It's like a cute little funny, like, I just love it. It was so cute. I ate this book up. I read it also really fast. The MMC, which is the male, one of my favorite book guys. Like, he was so likable. And the FMC, the female main character, she was so badass and I really liked her. Basically, obviously, as I said, she is the bodyguard. He's the celebrity. He's the actor. He gets called home. He is from a farm in Texas because his mom is sick. And obviously he drops everything, his work, his career, to go into his mom, make sure she's fine. And then she is his bodyguard, or she gets assigned to his detail. And yeah, so she's around all the time and they're just so cute. I just love this book. So I gave this book 4 stars. I really liked it. The next book I read was on Kindle. It's called Lotus. This book was really good. Let me tell you, the story was so unique. It's about this girl and this boy that live next to each other. On 4th of July, this boy gets kidnapped and they don't know where he is. And like years go by and she gets a call and they tell her, we found this boy like that went missing many years ago. Mind you, they were best friends many years ago. And so it's just about this guy trying to figure out life after being kidnapped for X amount of years. And yeah, him just finding his place in the world again, her helping him. It's such a unique and good written storyline. I gave this book 4 stars. I loved all the characters. They were really good. Only thing I wrote on Goodreads was I truly enjoyed the story. It had such a unique storyline. Oliver was a sweetheart, which was the guy who got kidnapped. And this is this type of story you won't forget. And I remember a lot of vivid details about this book. It was so good. Do yourself a favor and go read this if you're looking for something different. It's a romance, but there's so much more to the romance. Like, there's so much plot. There's just so much to work with. And just like who kidnapped him, how it happened. It was so good. Also, this book is it's a dark contemporary romance. The next book I read was Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. This book was so cute. I really liked it. It's about this guy and this girl. She has a crush on this guy. And her friend that lives next to her, he's not really her friend, but they live next to each other. They make this bet that he would help her get a date with this guy to prom if they have this parking spot situation going on, and like he's like, I can get the parking spot in front of our house if I can get your date with this guy. And just how they truly just liked each other from the beginning, and just a lot of miscommunication, but it's really good. I really like this book, guys. When I tell you, like, it will literally make you giggle and kick your feet. This book boyfriend, Wes Bennett, is one of the best book boyfriends ever. The girl is so funny. The references in this book, like song references. She's also like obsessed with movies, which I love. So in every single beginning of the chapter, Like this one, there's a quote from a rom-com. Like this one is Pretty Woman. You're late, you're stunning, you're forgiven. I like that. So yeah, that's what this book is about. Just them like trying to figure out like how they're gonna get a date with this guy to prom, but also like they're in love with each other, and it's just a lot, but it's so cute. Please go read it. I get this book 4 stars. The next book I read was also on Kindle. It's called Unravel Me by Tara Mafi, which is the second book in the Shatter Me series. This book obviously still follows Juliet, Adam, and Aaron Warner's story, how Juliet finally escaped the reestablishment with Adam, and how Warner is set out to get them. But in the last book, you see a lot that goes down between Juliet and Warner, and you're kind of like led into this book thinking what's going to happen between them. Like, obviously, things didn't end well, and just like how is she gonna like maneuver this, because Adam is gonna get her back. Like, he has a lot of power, and so she can't hide from him forever. And when I tell you, this book was really good. I gave it 5 stars. I was pleasantly surprised. It was a bit longer than the first one. It kept me entertained. Like, I don't know why I didn't immediately read Ignite Me next. Like, I ate this book up. It was so good. I love how everything I say, and then when I scroll down to read what I wrote in Goodreads, is exactly what I just said. My Goodreads review said, I ate this up. It was so good. The ending made me excited to start book 3. I cannot wait to see where Juliet and Aaron's story goes. I'm so over Adam, if I have to be honest. Kenji deserves way better friends, and I'm so confused about Anderson, because literally, what is he trying to do? I'm so funny. I can't. But yeah, I gave this book 5 stars. It was so good. Can't wait to read the third one. The next book I read was also on Kindle Unlimited. It's called Archer's Voice by Mia Sheridan. This book has been on my TBR for the last 5 years, since the pandemic, and man oh man, am I so happy I read it. I read this one pretty recently, so I still remember it vividly. It's about this guy and this girl, and something happened to her. You will find out what happened to her. She moves to a small town, obviously to escape her past, and she meets this guy called Archer, and he is deaf. So her dad was deaf, and she knows sign language because her dad was deaf. And she meets Archer, who literally got like basically shunned from his community because he's deaf, and like nobody can communicate with him. And yeah, so he just kind of decides to live like secluded, and she meets him, and she obviously knows sign language, and so just how they start to communicate with each other. And he has his guard up in the beginning, and how she like slowly but surely like gets him to open up and like try to like accept her as like wanting to be his friend. And it's the cutest book ever. I love the like specificness of him being deaf, like that little detail, and like how the writer used that to write a love story around that. It was really good. I really liked it. It was also, I believe, one of my 5 star reads of 2024. I remember really liking this book. I think I did give this book a 5 star. I remember saying in my Goodreads review that I need an Archer hell. The next book I read is Saving Noah by Lucinda Berry. I also read this on Kindle Unlimited. Guys, this book was insane. Like, I think this was probably the most interesting book I've read in 2024, if not the most interesting book I've ever read. It's about this mom. This is a very like controversial book, I believe. Like, it's definitely not for the faint-hearted, or like if you're a very like sympathetic or sensitive person, do not read this book. It is pretty real and raw. This poor mother has to like maneuver her way through like saving her child from this terrible, terrible, terrible thing that happened, and that keeps on happening, and him like asking her to help him. I'm trying to like explain this very vividly because I don't want to give away like what this book is about, because I went into this book blind, and I think the best like way to go into this book is blind. But man, oh man, this book took me through a roller coaster. Like, it went from, what am I reading? What is this? To like, I think I can save him. No, 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 no. Oh, it's bad. It's very, very bad. And then just like, I literally wanted to throw this book across the room. It literally felt like somebody was like tearing my heart out of my like rib cage, basically. So good. Gave this book 5 stars. And then the last book I read of 2024 is also a book I read on my Kindle. It's called Hidden Pictures, and this is the book that took me forever to finish. But this book is really interesting. It's about this nanny who has a past. She has a past with drugs. She's a druggie, and she went into rehab and she got clean and she started a new life in like this little small town. And she goes to work for this really rich family who has one kid. And as she starts working for this family, strange things happen with this kid. Like this kid draws pictures that normal kids wouldn't draw. Like it's very dark pictures. And how she just like starts to question, why is he drawing these pictures? Like what's going on? And like the parents is no help. And so the story just takes a whole loop, I guess. The ending I really didn't like. I didn't like the way the book went. I felt like they could have done something else with this book. But an interesting thing about this book is they do show the pictures that the kid draws in the book. So you get to see what she is seeing, and that was a really cool touch. But overall, how everything tied together, which I did appreciate how everything tied together, so you do get answers for every single question you have. But I'm just so confused why the writer decided to take this approach to the book. But anyway, I did give this book 4 stars when I just finished it, but I decided no, I'm gonna take down a star. I'm gonna give it 3 stars because I really didn't like it that much. It was really good to read. It intrigued me a lot, but it wasn't worth it for me. I wouldn't recommend that book to anybody because it's just a little bit weird. That concludes my 2024 books that I read. I hope you guys really liked all the books that I read, that there might be some books that you think you would like. I'm really, really, really bad at explaining books, guys. I need to get better. Let's talk about 2025. Books I want to read in 2025. My reading goal for 2025 is 40 books. Right now, I'm reading Heartless Hunter. This book was also recommended to me by my favorite booktuber of all time, Steph Bohr. She really liked it, and like when she explained this book, I really liked it, and I was like, I think I would like that. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I hope that me explaining the books weren't too confusing, because I confuse myself at sometimes. But overall, I gave the ratings. I told you guys what I thought about this book. I more or less explained what it is about. And then I'm just happy I made this video to remember what I read in 2024, and like I can put this in a little file of like, if you ever want to remember what you read in 2024, go watch this video. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it.